Oh, yeah.
All right.
We had a law which which was that whenever any Muslim became involved in any kind of sexual relationship with someone to whom they weren't married, that person would be brought before the Muslim community, humiliated, and then isolated for from 1 to 5 years. Well, number one, if you notice, the stick that I always used in presenting, representing, and defending the Muslim movement was the fact that it had the ability to reform the morals of the so-called Negro community. It eliminated drug addiction, alcoholism, fornication, adultery, loose sexual behavior, which meant that it eliminated bastard babies, illegitimate children. Well, as long as I knew that this was what it represented and it gave me a strong stick, I could represent it and defend it. Well, in 1954, a teenage sister left Detroit and became one of Mr. Muhammad's personal secretaries. And there in the Chicago office, she became pregnant after being there for a year. And she was brought before the Muslim community and humiliated and isolated. And a year later, another secretary, this time one from Lansing, Michigan, came to Chicago. She also became pregnant. She was brought before the community and humiliated and isolated. And because the other person was never brought forth during this court session, it was concluded by all of Mr. Muhammad's followers that it was a non-Muslim who was the other party. Well, we grew so rapidly until that in 1957 or 58, the secretarial staff was expanded to, I think, 8 teenage sisters. In 1959, 6 of them disappeared. 2 of them reappeared in Philadelphia about 2 or 3 months later, and they were all right. The other 4 reappeared in 1960. All 4 of them had babies. All 4 of them had become involved with someone and become pregnant and had these children. So it was, from what I now know, when the 4 of them got back to Chicago and began to compare notes, they found that the same man had told all of them the same story and had made all of them pregnant. That the same man was the father of all 4 of their children and had also been the father of the children brought forth by the 2 secretaries who preceded them. So this story was kept among these sisters until 1962. 2 of them rebelled against the person who was responsible and began to tell the story all over the city of Chicago. It caused many of the Muslims in the Chicago mosque to leave and go back out in the street. They knew it, and I knew nothing about it until 1963 when Mr. Muhammad's son, who had been in prison, came out, and he had been a minister. He was very religious and spiritual, and when he began to hear these rumors around Chicago, he went to one of the sisters, and the sister admitted to him that the rumor was true. And it was he who first told me about it. And when he told me about it, I wrote to Mr. Muhammad and told him about it, and he admitted that he had a knowledge of it, and that he'd given me a religious explanation that would fit into prophecy and all of that, so I was quiet. And it wasn't until October of 1963 that it came up again. And when it came up again, I realized that the same person who had made these other sisters pregnant was still busy doing the same thing. He hadn't stopped. 2 of the sisters had 2 children by the same man. And one of those 2 sisters was pregnant still, getting ready to have a 3rd child by the same man. So when it was known among the Chicago officials that I had a knowledge of this, they became very fearful of me. They became very antagonistic toward me, and they had to do something to diminish the authority that I had, for fear that if this became public knowledge, the followers would leave the Muslim movement and follow me. And it was at that time that they used the statement that I made against President Kennedy as a pretext to cut my authority, and some other things happened that finally produced the split, or forced the split. And when I made the split, the only reason that I didn't make this public knowledge was I knew the implications, and I felt that if the Muslims who were in the Nation of Islam knew it, that which enabled them to be so strongly religious and exercise moral discipline would be shattered, and it would cause all of them to go right back and start doing the things that they had been doing previously.
Who is the father of all of these various children whom you have enumerated?
The first one to tell me who the father was Wallace Muhammad, and he told me that the father was Elijah Muhammad himself.
Greetings to you. I'm Elijah Muhammad, the preacher of freedom, justice, and equality to my people here in the wilderness of North America.
He went to the home of one of the sisters, and when he walked in the door, she says, "I want to let you see something." And she showed him her child. She said, "Here's your brother, and your father is the father of this child." And then I questioned the sisters myself, because I was shook up. And they admitted to me that Elijah Muhammad was the father of their children. And I took it to him. And it was at that time he told me that he was Muhammad, the prophet, and that Muhammad had 9 wives. He also told me that he was David. He was the modern David, and that he was the modern Solomon, and that it was meant for him to fulfill today all of the things that they did back there.
And how many of these illegitimate children did he father with the sisters?
Well, he made 6 sisters pregnant. They all had children. 2 of those 6 had 2 children. One of those 2 is having a child right now. I am told that there is a 7th sister who is supposed to be in Mexico right now, and she's supposed to be having a child by him.
I wanted you to know that my house was bombed. It was bombed by the black Muslim movement upon the orders of Elijah Muhammad. Now, they had come around, so they had planned to do it from the front and the back so that I couldn't get out. They covered the front completely, the front door. Then they had come to the back, but instead of getting directly in the back of the house and throwing it this way, they stood at a 45-degree angle and tossed it at the window, so it glanced and went onto the ground. And the fire hit the window, and it woke up my second oldest baby. But the fire burned on the outside of the house. But had that one gone through that window, it would have fallen on a 6-year-old girl, a 4-year-old girl, and a 2-year-old girl. And I'm going to tell you, if it had done it, I'd taken my rifle and gone after anybody in sight. I would not wait. And I say that because of this. The police know the criminal operation of the black Muslim movement because they have thoroughly infiltrated it.
And I had stated in a newspaper article about an effort to take my life back in January, and at that time the Muslims denied it.
Why are they threatening your life?
Well, primarily because they're afraid that I will tell the real reason that I'm out of the black Muslim movement, which I never told. I kept to myself. But the real reason is that Elijah Muhammad, the head of the movement, is the father of 8 children by 6 different teenage girls. 6 different teenage girls who were his private personal secretary. The one who first made me aware of this was Wallace Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad's son. And it was their fear that if I remained in the black Muslim movement and this came into the knowledge of his followers, that they would leave him and follow me. A plan immediately was set in motion to take me down, put me out. And the statement that I made about Kennedy was used as a pretext to take me down.
Did you get out of? What will you take to protect yourself from this threat?
I take no steps. I have a rifle. If anybody comes to my house without a good reason, I intend to try and use it, and that's all.
She was so kind. The shit she put up with from her daughters and sons, the shit that no mother want their daughters to do. Brother Elijah Jr. talking that shit, and he had more mission than his damn father. See, Akbar and Wharf were the smartest one. Nathaniel was a nut. He did his thing out in Kansas City. They did his thing out in Kansas City. But let me tell you something, bro. Listen, brother. The girl's name, Special Esther. Esther was a nut. You need to ask Belinda more about Esther. Because see, all of them, she grew up in this house because Raymond Board, who just died last year. You know, I know she told you her father just died last year.
Her father. Her mom is still alive. Yes.
No, her father died last year. I think Belinda's mom's still alive.
Yeah, her mom is still
alive. But her father died last year. Captain Raymond died last year.
Right.
Now, she grew up in that house. The bakery that he ran, that was Elijah's bakery. See, Elijah had a lot of young girls in the bakery because he did that young bucket. I ain't gonna take my word. Ask Belinda, she was right there. See, but a lot of shit y'all don't know, bro. A lot of shit I believe, and he was a good guy. He taught the truth. He cleaned us up, but bro, you can't kill somebody and doing good yourself. See, bro, that's why a lot of brothers tricked up today. That's why a lot of brothers are glad when the Imam walked in Muhammad came and took us out of the boat. We were locked down like shackles. A lot of them brothers couldn't do nothing. The brother could say something to your wife back then. Says your wife got to go to Chicago, brother. The brothers get these questions, why my wife going to Chicago to see the Lamb of God? Some of us called him the messenger, last messenger, and some of us called him the Lamb of God. Bro, if a joker walk in the room and say your wife got to go to Chicago, what you gonna tell him right now, bro? What you gonna tell him that the Farrakhan said he need to see his sister in Chicago? What you gonna tell this nigga today?
Oh, he ain't going. She ain't going.
Already. You know what I'm saying, bro?
Yeah.
See, that's how he had a trick, bro.
My mother and father came into the nation back in late 40s. And when I was born, my father already was a first lieutenant. And when my mother and father would go to work, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, let me keep your daughter because I'm going to put her in our school. I'm not going to let her go to a public school. He said, can I do that? And my father and mother said, sure.
How old were
you? I think I was like 3 or 4.
Okay.
And, you know, when they went to work, I stayed at his house with the grandchildren and played with them. And then they came up with the school. And so we all went to school together. He was like a grandfather to me, really, because I say grandfather to him just like all the other children. And it was when I got to some age and I found out who he was, it was like the leader. And it was always that kind of respect being around him and all in this big, beautiful mansion. And I just knew he was somebody. And then we see him speak all the time. It was like, wow, that's remarkable that I live and be in the house. I'm closer to him than the other members.
How about, speaking of wives, Clara Muhammad? Describe her, if you could.
And that woman, I mean, just to know her, she was such a meek and humble woman. She went through so much, and she supported her husband in the entire time. Very supportive. She had a lot of children, and she supported the school. She was the one to come up with the school. She created the school to teach her children, grandchildren, and us. She was considered the first lady. And by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad being the leader, she was the first lady. She was our first lady. And we honored her so much. Later on, after her death, they changed the school name from Muhammad's University of Islam to Sister Clara Muhammad Schools. She was humble and clean and meek. When her husband went to prison, she kept the mosque going and the schools going. And she never deviated from her path, not once. And she was a very quiet person, very humble and meek too. She had determination, and it's the way she carried herself more than anything. She wore long, beautiful dresses, pearls around her neck like Queen of England. And she was our queen. She was our anarchy. And I loved her a lot. She would smile, and I would tell her things, and she'd look and she'd smile. And she said, you're in my house. You're just like one of my own children. And I thought that was very honorable for her to say that to me. Matter of fact, on a very rainy night, a rainy day when we were out of school, my mother and father was working, and she said, "Grandfather is here to teach y'all some things today." And she said, who would like to learn how to cook? And I said, me. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came down, and he said, I'm going to show you, me and other grandchildren, how to make bean soup. And he sat there and he cut up and had us chopping up celery and onions. And he said, put it in the pot. And he would show us one by one how to make the bean soup. Then one day he showed us how to make the bean pie. Then he showed us how to make carrot cake.
So you said that she's been through a lot. Can you quantify it? Can you tell the things that you said that she's been through?
Yeah, well, seeing her stand up in front of us and tell us how great we are, tell us how beautiful we are, to tell us and teach us the classes that we had to go through. We had to go through certain classes that women need to go through as young women. And she stood there over us and taught us how important us to be humble, how to build your crown as a woman. And
sure.
I've never met a woman yet like her, ever. And it was just to look at royalty like that, you know. But at that time we would consider them the royal family.
Sure. And
it was bigger. It's a bigger royalty than the Queen of England. That she was our queen. She was our queen. Our Asiatic original queen. And I mean, I would have done anything for her at any time.
Wow.
For her, but this is the thing. When I start seeing more than I wanted to see, she still stayed strong and benevolent. And there were some people I just didn't like around her. And I wasn't thinking about nice things to do to them either. But I saw her go through, you know, disloyalty.
Can you elaborate on that?
I can't. I can't do it right now. It's just some things I just didn't see her. I just didn't see what was going on in her family when it was broken out that Elijah Muhammad had all these women impregnated with children and everything, and I saw that, and being loyal to our queen, I didn't like it at all. I didn't understand it. I didn't like it. It was just the things that we saw in the papers that you read about him having, you know, other women, and that part I didn't like. I was trying to refrain from thinking bad things, and it was just wrong, and I think it's wrong, you know. But there's a parable inside the Holy Quran says, men are made to be weak. And I've seen that in the past. But it's just not right. It's just not right.
A lot of my readings said Minister Farrakhan said that they were his wives. Were they Elijah Muhammad wives, or were they?
You can call you everything you want. It wasn't his wives. They don't want no wives. You're only supposed to have one wife in this country. Otherwise, it's bigamy. And we're not supposed to break any laws as long as it doesn't. You know, people tell you, so now that I'm older, it's a crock. Well, this wife thing is a crock. There ain't no wives. It's some other woman. To be honest with yourself. There ain't no wives. I saw his wife and his children. And the children from the wife that he had, that's all I'd see. All the other stuff is a crock. You can call them whatever you want to make you feel good or make you feel okay. Give yourself an out or give yourself an excuse, but there was just women. He wasn't married but the one wife. So I don't want to hear that wives crap. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in any of it. So I don't want nobody to be set out. That was his wife. No, that was his woman or his hoe or whatever. It ain't no wife. And I'm being honest with you and I'm being straight up with you, and I do not hold my tongue about the truth. There ain't no wife. Ali tried to pass that thing off. There ain't no wife. It's your hoe or your woman or whatever. But it ain't your wife. And I hate to be rude or anything like that, but I'm just being honest. It's your trollop that you do anything you want with her in spite of you having a wife and disrespecting her. And it's just wrong. I'm sorry. I ain't falling for that wife thing. Because if you want to know what wives are about, go to the Middle East. There was wives for a reason back in the day in the Middle East. Not in Chicago, not in LA, not in Atlanta, in the Middle East. They had more than one wife because of a reason, because of the war. You know. But there was a different kind of connection. It wasn't about having sex with them or having kids with them. It was about them taking care of the husband that they used to have because they have children and they need to eat. And they would take on these wives to take care of them. It wasn't nothing personal. Then it started getting personal. Now it's personal. But in order for you to get another wife, one, if you read the Quran, it tells you she has to have a weakness of some kind. She can't have children, or she can't clean up, or she has to be a wounded woman. Somebody who can't take the chores of a wife. That's saying a lot. And number two, the wife has to choose the wife. Now, you need to read the fine print when you go over there. It's serious, you know. But this is outright just going with another woman. The bottom line, no joke. I'm not going to patronize it. I'm not going to clarify it. Nothing like that. No, and it was wrong. And I think most of all, I think that hurt Malcolm X more than anything, because he had a wife. He was loyal to his wife. He was loyal to the mother of his children. He was loyal. And he thought the Elijah Muhammad was loyal. And it broke his heart to find out he wasn't. There you go. I talked to him personally. He didn't like that at all. And I told him I didn't like it at all either. He was a good man. He was a true Muslim.
Can you expound on the relationship? I mean, on the conversation you had with Malcolm as a regard, and two, Malcolm alleged. I'm going to use the word alleged that they were some were underage, some were overage. Can you expound on that as well?
was alleged what?
I said Malcolm alleged that some of Elijah's women were underage and overage and secretaries. And can you expound on that?
Yeah, well, I guess they were, because they were there. I seen them myself. It's all true.
What's underage? Are you?
Well, I
under 18 then, or under 17? What's underage then?
Well, the fact of it is, he shouldn't have been with anybody other than his wife. Basically, if anything is underage, when they say we get married and we're not underage when the mother and father gives them away, and these women did not do that. Their fathers did not give them away to Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It was not blessed or given away blessed when he was married to another woman. None of that happened. None of that. So whether they were aged or underage, they shouldn't have been there in the first place, because he was already married, really. He was already married. And nobody could have been his wife legally other than his wife, period. Let's face the truth. But she's underage, it doesn't matter. The fact that she's just another woman going with another man and he's married is wrong, period, all right? We was in town for the Joe Frazier fight. Here I am refraining from my husband so he can be strong. You know how you do. You have to stay away from. So he have the fighting and they get that energy and he have the extra adrenaline. And I asked everybody in the crew, Boonding and all, where's Ali? Nobody knows where he is. I said, now you know what? Something's wrong with that picture. Because everybody knows always where he is. So I said, I'm going to call Gene Kilroy, because I know Gene Kilroy, he'll tell me the truth. I called Gene Kilroy. A lady answered the phone. Hello? So may I speak to Gene Kilroy? Who? I said, Gene Kilroy. And Ali said, I heard his voice, hang up the phone, tell me he ain't here. I go, what? I said, look, put Ali on the phone. What? I said, put Ali on the phone. Tell him this is his wife. Ali gets on the phone. What you talking about? What you talking about? I said, Ali, what are you doing? I ain't hearing what you think. I said, you know what? Forget about it. I'm coming up to the room. And your woman better be gone. And I go up there. Well, that's Gene Kilroy's girlfriend. I said, yeah, right. Okay. I come up to the room. Ali is so dumb. He's still in the room with the girl. He in the bed with no clothes on. You think you would at least put your clothes on before I came to the room, right? And I look down and there's a steak knife on the floor and a plate. And I take the steak knife, go in the room. I say, okay, this is it. I'm killing you right now. It's over. I'm done with you. You're gonna bring a woman right here in the hotel where I'm restraining from you so you can fight, and you're gonna get there, and an ugly woman at that. And she's ugly. I said, okay, you leave. I'll take care of him. So I made her leave. I said, you mentioned this, you're dead. And I walked out the room. And I just got on the elevator and just went to any floor that hit a button. I got off, and there was these Hassocks sitting next to these windows, and I just sat down and had a good cry by myself. I cleaned up my tears and went back to my kids in the room. And I said, this something's wrong here.
These are the issues that I went through as a wife to Muhammad Ali, and knowing Herbert Muhammad and all of these people, they're the ones that pulls out this thing about they gotta have other wives and they gotta spread their seed and all this crap. It's a con job to get women. It's a con job to to get what they want when they want, without any without any punishment, without any repercussions because of it. And it has not only broken women, broken their faith in the religion because of this scandalous stuff. And it was a part of my breakup in my marriage as well, because there's no why. There's no such thing as a why. There was just women. In order for you to marry somebody, you got to do just like you do in America. You marry them, and then you don't marry, and then you divorce them. That's the way it is. These were scot-free, open relationships that was fraudulent, totally adultery, trying to take the adultery off the jacket. When they were breaking the laws back and forth. And this was the only thing that they used to justify their obscenities. And this is wrong. This is wrong. It's wrong then, and it's wrong now. And always will be.
And when the fight's over and you lose, ain't nobody gonna be in the room but me and my mama and my daddy. And your daddy, probably. And that's it. All these Bundinis and all your Binghams and all your whatever, they ain't gonna be there. Nobody likes a loser, man. I don't need you. I've been fighting all my life, brother. Okay, you're on your own. I'm done. I went black, all right?
Madison Square Garden, 15th round, when Joe hit Ali with that horrific left hook and knocked him down. What was going through you then?
I didn't feel that. I didn't feel any of that. I didn't care. I blocked it out. That scared me. That scared me a lot. Ali said, "You were really rooting for Joe Frazier, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I was." And I said, "And he deserved it." He said, "You're right." He said, "I was wrong." And Ali, he admitted he was wrong, and he was good. He was good. He said he was sorry. Said, I'm not gonna let this happen again. I said, I hope not. I said, because I'm not gonna allow you to let it happen again. It's not gonna happen. The next time this happens, I'm not listening to you anymore.
And did you then get back that feeling of caring every time he got hit?
Yeah, it came back to me. He's just going through a phase or something. And I kind of blocked out all the bad stuff. People can do that. You start bringing it in my home, and I couldn't stand for that. I knew I had to leave soon.
Zaire is great in that Ali regains the championship of the world.
But you know what? After the triumph of all that, all the Veronicas and all the girlfriends didn't matter to me, because this was my husband, and he was the most important at the time. I flashed back to all the time that I stuck by him and dreamed about a moment like this. All the little women and stuff didn't matter that much at that moment. It's not going to take away the struggle and the caring and the love that we had together. And you just don't let petty things like that mess up your moment. And so we all got home, and I said, this is a small petty thing compared to what we have accomplished together as a family and as a unit and as a person who loved and trusted him.
Now, you were in the United States while Ali was in Manila, and reports start coming back in the newspapers and magazines about what he's doing over there.
Yeah,
apart from the boxing.
Yeah,
And what do you hear? And then you get on a plane and
No,
you
no,
go
no,
to
no, no,
Manila.
no.
Okay.
Before that, I hear all the news. I decided to go into Islam, get a little bit more serious about the laws and bylaws. So the Imam Muhammad made me his personal photographer. So I worked for the Muslim paper. Kept me busy. I wanted to be in a positive state. So I went, and the Imam said, well, you stay in my house. Follow Lee's training. And I said, okay. We had a night of power. We had all these unique things that was great. So one day, I was going to go get the newspaper like I always do. They said, no, we get the newspaper. Nobody wanted me to see the newspaper. So, you're feeling funny. Something's wrong here. The atmosphere is different. Something is wrong. I have great instinct. I know when something ain't right. They didn't want me to go to the newspaper. They didn't want to turn on the radio. They didn't want me to look at TV. Said, you know what, you need to stay busy. And I go, something is just not right. So Uncle Wallace said, we're going to go buy some fish. We go get fried. After all of that, we went on with the newspaper and everything. He go gets the fish, gives me the fish. I go in the kitchen. The fish is wrapped up in newspaper, and there's the headlines right there in front of my face, unwrapping the fish. Muhammad Ali introduces his wife, Veronica Porsche. What? So I calls Ali on the phone. What's this about your wife? I didn't write that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Said, Ali, they ain't gonna put this on worldwide television and you didn't say it. He said, I promise you, I didn't say nothing like that. I tell you what, why don't you get your people, get your brother, whoever you want to bring with you, and come to Manila and I'll prove it to you. I said, oh, okay. So I said, maybe it's misprint, maybe he's right. But it's not likely. I work for a paper. They're not gonna print something that's not true. Headline news. So I go to Manila. I get off the plane so everybody sees me and they recognize me. Everything got quiet. It was like going into a ghost town with Wyatt Earp and everybody there, but nobody's saying anything. So I go to the hotel. I go, what's going on? I said, now, I have never waited for my husband this long in a hotel in my entire life. And if you don't get me to my husband ASAP, I would tear this hotel down, okay? So stop the crap right now. Take me to my husband now. And then Dundee comes out and said, Veronica's here somewhere. I said, Veronica? I said, well, I hope I don't see her. If I don't see her, you'll be taking her home in a pine box. I better not run into her. I'm not gonna be nice. So they was trying to get rid of her. And I go in there and me and Ali had a confrontation. But you told me this didn't happen, and now I'm here, and everything that you said didn't happen, did happen. Now, are you on something? You got to be on something. Well, I didn't want you to run into Veronica. I said, why are you doing this? You done this stuff again. Here we go again. And I'm tired of you. I'm tired of sick of you. I'm tired of your lies. I'm tired of everything. So I go in my room, lost my cool, and tore every piece of furniture in that room. I tore that whole room up. I karate chopped everything. Glass on the wall, chairs, tables. They thought me and Ali was fighting in there. It was just me and my friends. Tore the room up. I said, I want the first plane home. I didn't even stay for the fight. I didn't care. And I left. That's when I made up my mind. That's what I did.
Now, did he understand that he was being cruel when he was philandering?
No, he thought he was doing what he wanted to do. Yeah. He didn't see the hurt I was going through. He didn't see that. He didn't see that. It was all about him. It was all just about him.
Would you please cook me some dinner? you know, when you look you guys up and you look at your relationship,
Yeah,
it talks about the great times. It also talks about the bad times.
of course.
And
But we dealt with them,
after you got over that pain that you went through,
the pain.
especially with Veronica, with Thriller Manila, all that stuff like that.
Now, what you don't know
Yes,
is it wasn't only Veronica I had a problem with.
I know.
Lonnie was another one. Lonnie was going with my husband too. To
A
get
number
money.
of- I heard a
Well,
number of-
those two was the only one that were relentless and just wouldn't move, wouldn't budge. They would not move. And you know what? When I start seeing it, I go, and see, Muhammad didn't hide anything. He said, she's been pregnant, and I mean, there's a lot of women that said that he got pregnant by him, and he had to come to me and said, they said they pregnant, what we gonna do? And it wasn't me, the wife anymore, it was me, his friend. And I said, and I'm going, what? You did what?
I know the women that he went with, even though he would call this going to be my wife. I said, man, you know, you're already married to me. You think I'm crazy? That's going to be your wife. It's going to be your girlfriend that you want to lay in the bed with so you can keep your wife quiet. Your real wife.
Right.
And I want to see you do it. I want to see if you really got the balls to do what you just said. And lo and behold, he did do it. He did do it. But there was no marriage ceremony between these people.
Right.
And Veronica herself knows it was a con job. Talk about, oh, she married him in Africa. How the hell she married him in Africa when he was married to me? Who do you think you fooling, girl? You actually believe that narcissist telling you that, and you believe it with a ceremony with a brother there and saying, I married thee, even if it did take place? It had to take place to convince her it was okay. But she knowingly knew I was legally married to me. So where's the justification? There is none. She knew what she was doing when she stepped off out of the car.
Right.
When she stepped up and started walking with him, sharing my husband in public, she knew what she was doing. Oh yes, and everybody knew I was married to him. She knew I was married to him.
So you felt the pain of Brianna Michelle.
Any woman would have felt the pain and the disgrace. And I said, he actually doing this publicly? And they falling for it?
Right.
Oh my God. Grow up. Who's the dummy now? And if you got nerve to disrespect my entire family in front of the world, you're out of your damn mind. And I'm not going with this. I went along with just to watch to see if he actually was going to do that, the con job. I couldn't believe he actually did do it. I said, I'm just going to see if he's actually really going to do this. If he really is that narcissistic that he would just go ahead and do that in front of me. I said, go ahead. I'm going to see what you're going to do. And he actually did it. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
Do you think that it was learned? It was a learned behavior from Elijah Muhammad, or even advice from Herbert?
It wasn't from Elijah Muhammad. It had to be from Herbert Muhammad because that was his culprit right there. That was the snake that rattled the cage. But he was with him 24/7.
Right.
I'm sure Elijah Muhammad didn't tell Muhammad Ali to get another woman in front of me. He raised me. He knew better.
How did you?
And to my knowledge, in the foreign Muslims, it was the fact that during the Prophet Muhammad's time, if a woman couldn't have a children, or she was old and she couldn't take care of her husband, or she couldn't clean, or she couldn't do nothing, she was too old, and she gets another wife, she's the one have to choose the wife. But it has to be something wrong with the woman in order for the man to get another one. She has to be like damaged to something, or damaged to something, so for him to have another wife, and then they just go ahead and marry the wife. and the wife accepts it, and she chooses the wife. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you the fine print. But you're talking in the Middle East. You're talking where the laws is the different law than America. It's bigamy in this country if they didn't know the difference. It's bigamy to marry two people at the same time. It's bigamy. It's not legal. And that's the law. And we are not supposed to break American law where we live if it doesn't contradict our religion as belief. And that ain't one of them, right?
Right.
So the showdown is on, brother. I appreciate it. Now, people need to be aware of this foolishness, cockamamie crap.
Yes.
No, it ain't right. And the men need to be horsewhipped for even come up with some concoction like that with their little weak ass.
Right.
They need to get off their butt, take care of their wives, take care of their children, and be faithful to their children.
Right.
If Muhammad Ali had to stand up for his family like he stood up for his religion, then he would still be married today.
Right.
He wouldn't have to go off and be out with other women.
Right.
Fight for your family. Stick with your family. Your family is your future. Your family is your legacy.
Right.
My name is Chris Ali, born Christopher Ali, to Minister Abdul Rahman, also known as Minister Abdul Rahman Muhammad, also known as Minister Abdul Rahman Akil. I am one of his sons from another relationship. Let's just say it like that, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. But the world would consider me one of his bastard sons. And I sit here today as newly revised Muslim and just a proud son of my father. But I believe I haven't really counted in a while, but I believe I am his ninth child overall. But again, I'm from another relationship from Minister Rahman.
Yeah, and for those of people who don't know who Minister Rahman is, who is Minister Rahman?
Minister Rahman was and still is the greatest, most accomplished Southern Regional Representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that ever lived. He came in the Nation of Islam in 1956, was known as Captain Sam. A lot of believers know him, a lot of people know him as Captain Sam in Miami. Personally responsible for the very early development of a young Cassius Clay, who later became Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, before we jump in him, you said that you were from another relationship. Can you speak on that relationship and your childhood as it pertains to Captain Sam and the Nation of Islam?
Well, the Nation of Islam fell, as a lot of people know. The Nation of Islam, well, some would say it was a fall. Others would say it was a transformation or a resurrection. But the Nation of Islam went through a severe change in 1975. My father at the time was the Southern Regional Representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad here in Atlanta, Georgia. In 75, going into 76, my father being unable to really adapt to the changes that Imam Warith al-Din was establishing in the Nation of Islam, essentially broke from the Nation of Islam, or at that time was the World Community of Al-Islam. He couldn't get with that. He couldn't rock with the changes that Imam Warith al-Din was putting in place. So around 76, maybe early 77, he went to Muhammad Ali and said, "Hey man, let me go ahead and work with you full time." So during that period of time of him working with Muhammad Ali in 70, 76, 77, he met my mother, Marilyn Carr was her name. My mom had, it was from Las Vegas. She had strong family ties. My mom's family had strong family ties into the Las Vegas gambling scene. Some would consider it the underworld. My great-grandfather worked very close to Bugsy Siegel during the time when Vegas was in its early years. So that's my mother's family. He met my mom basically in Ali's camp, you know, and to just go ahead and just put it on out there. Yes, initially my mother was an interest of Muhammad Ali, but eventually, you know, my dad moved in and now I'm here.
Right. Was there friction
with who exactly?
Between Captain Sam and Muhammad Ali as it pertains to your mother?
Yeah, it caused a problem in the camp. Yeah, it did. That's ultimately what led to my pop leaving the Ali camp at that time.
And what year is this? 77?
He met her in 70. No, I was born in 81.
Right.
So he met my mom roughly 70, 79, 80, somewhere in there. So yeah, my father officially left the camp in 81, not long after I was born.
So 81 is roundabout Trevor Berbick?
Yeah, Ali's
so that was end up being Ali's last fight. So your dad, because of what you said, he survived his basically whole his whole boxing career.
Yeah. There was a period of time Pop had fell off. I want to say during the George Foreman fight, because you know Ali wasn't in good standing with the Nation of Islam during those years. A lot of people don't know that, but
right,
Ali wasn't in the best standing with the nation and Elijah Muhammad during those years. So my father really wasn't around during that time. But after Ali smoothed that out with Elijah Muhammad and the nation, after that George Foreman fight, he was back in the loop with him. But like I said, I was at that fight as a baby. My mom and my father took me to that fight, actually.
To what fight?
The Trevor Berbick fight.
Oh, okay, so Trevor Berbick was so you had
Ali. 1981 was the last fight that Ali fought in the Bahamas, and I was down there for that.
Yeah, that's the time where they came in. If it was the Nation of Islam that came in and beat up Don King. Legend has it.
Legend. I don't think it's the Nation of Islam. You know, I can't confirm or deny that, but
okay.
Yeah, Pop and my mom was down there during that time.
So you had to be months old.
Yeah, that was December of 81. I was born in July of 81.
Okay, yeah. So yeah. So was Captain Sam married to another woman while dating your mother?
Yes.
So were you raised in Miami or were you raised in Las Vegas?
I was raised actually in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, like I said, my father was married to his first wife, Mildred Simon, was her slave name. She later on became Zarifa Rahman, and they were together. They had their children. I forget the number off the top of my head, but they had their children, and that marriage, I want to say, probably officially ended really in the 80s, in the mid 80s. But he met my mom, and that was during the time when everybody in Ali's camp was doing their thing. You know, it wasn't just my father. Ali had went through his transition with Belinda, with Portia, and my father met my mom during the same time. So that caused friction. You know, it caused a lot of friction that really exists to this day.
Right.
But the reality is the history that the Nation of Islam, I'll say, will propagate now is that he just met my mom, knocked her off, and then had a baby, which is not true at all. He actually wanted to be with my mother. You know, he actually fell in love with my mother and wanted to be with her. And that could be attested over to the fact that I have a brother who's 5 years younger than me. So there was a relationship there, but we can get into that later. But it wasn't allowed to. He wasn't allowed to establish that due to his relationship with the Nation of Islam.
So what was your childhood like? How often did you see your father? And what was the relationship like with Captain Sam and your mother? And currently, is your mother still alive?
Yes, she is.
How old is mom?
I think mom is about 67 now.
67. So
Yeah.
she was 20 years younger than Captain Sam, 30 years younger?
Quite younger, yeah.
Okay.
He was in his 50s. My mom was, I want to say, 25, I believe.
When they met.
When they met, yeah. He was never Captain Sam in my lifetime or her lifetime. Yeah, he became Abdul Rahman in the 70s.
Okay.
So yeah, so but he met my mother when the Nation of Islam had already taken his fall. You know, he wasn't an active Muslim at the time he met my mom.
Yeah, my apologies.
He wasn't active in the nation. He was a Muslim, but he wasn't active in the nation.
Right. And the reason why I referred to him as Captain Sam is because much of my research is in the 60s and in the 60s as it pertains circling around Ali and Malcolm X relationship. So I apologize.
Yeah. Oh no.
If I call him Captain Sam while doing this interview, I do want to be respectful.
Oh no, understood.
Yeah. Thank you. So explain your childhood.
Well, basically, my father was in my life. My father never wanted to distance himself from my life, though those around him encouraged that. You know, naturally, his first wife was not open and was not at all receptive to what happened. But like I said, consider the time and consider the circumstance. But there was a period of time that he attempted to fix the marriage, but ultimately he didn't want the marriage. He wanted to pursue some with my mother, but my mother didn't want to be in the nation. My mother didn't want to convert to Islam. So that was one factor. Another factor is in the 80s, early 80s, Mr. Farrakhan pursued a lot of the old members of the Nation of Islam, and my father was one of them. But my father initially didn't want to go. My father initially didn't want to help Mr. Farrakhan, not because of any issues with him. He actually loved Mr. Farrakhan. But, you know, my mother was in play. And even though he tried to help Mr. Farrakhan early on in the 80s, it didn't really materialize because his first wife made sure she expressed to Mr. Farrakhan that she didn't feel comfortable with him working with him while my mother and myself was in the picture. So he tried, you know, he tried to distance himself. There was a really good brother who I want to give a major shout out to and much love to, Brother Robert. At that time, I think it was Brother Kareem, who I stayed with and who I lived with during that period of time. While he was trying to figure it out, man. I mean, you got to consider the fact this man lost everything he knew as a nation, as a leader in Elijah Muhammad in 1975. Went and helped Ali. Ali's career burnt out. Now you're talking about the late 70s, early 80s, dealing with a man that's trying to find himself, you know, and trying to figure himself out. So he made an attempt to maintain his first family, but that's not where he wanted to be. And ultimately they couldn't come to any common ground on that. So my father attempted to carry on with my mother and to establish something with my mother. But like I said, she didn't want to be in the Nation of Islam. So and the Nation of Islam really wasn't trying to accept me and my mother at that time, early on. So ultimately, man, my father said, you know, he wasn't going to give us up because there were forces in his family, some of his children, his sisters. Of course, his first wife was encouraging him to give me up to the state. You know, Pop wasn't having that. You know, Pop said, I'm not giving up my children. Because I have a little brother as well, who's 5 years younger than me, which goes to attest that there was a relationship there with him and my mother. But essentially, I was the initial shakeup in that situation.
Do you know his children, Farrakhan's children?
I know of them. I don't know any of them personally. But I know of them. I've met them in passing. I've had one interaction with one of his children that will never leave. His son Joshua. That's probably the only interaction I've really had. And that was, I met him in the Salam restaurant one Savior's Day. I want to say this was Savior's Day 1995. I walked up to him and met him. I walked up to him and introduced myself to him. and said, "Assalamu alaikum, brother Joshua. I'm brother Ali. I'm Mr. Rahman's son."
Right.
And he looked at me a little sideways, and he was like, "Who?" I was like, "Mr. Rahman's son." And he said, "What's your name?" I told him Ali. I told him how old I was. And he said, "Oh, you one of those children from one of them other women." And that never left me. That never left me. But yeah, that's what that was. But no, I don't have a personal relationship with any of them. And I can only say, even with Mr. Farrakhan, I've met him and talked with him and sat with him on a few occasions, but I don't know if he would really know me unless he saw me. Probably he probably would know me by name. I don't know.
Right. However, you and Farrakhan are actually related, right? Because of the relationship with your now the woman that I know of is from your father's first marriage.
Yes. So Sister Zarifa, who was formerly known as Mildred. Yeah.
Mildred. Now, can you elaborate on like the connection between Farrakhan and your father, and segue into Farrakhan being attracted to your stepsister?
My half sister.
Half sister. Thank you. Half sister.
Well, like I said, me being the bastard child, I was left, and I embraced that term, by the way. You know what I mean? I by no means feel any way about that. I embraced that term because it's my reality, you know. But me being the bastard child, there were parameters that I wasn't privy to, I wasn't exposed to. So a lot of people who knew me in the Nation of Islam didn't know I was Mr. Rahman's son, because I didn't necessarily publicize that. You know what I mean? I just wanted to serve. I just wanted to be a Muslim, a FOI at the time.
Right.
But so when my sister came up with their son, I didn't know initially that was Mr. Farrakhan's son. And my father never told me that. That was something that I found out during my own walk in the Nation of Islam. But yeah, Mr. Farrakhan was I'm going to respect the relationship and call it what was established as that she was one of his wives. And when I asked my father about it, he never initially as a kid he never told me what that was. Matter of fact, he told me that my sister's husband was a pilot. He never told me personally that was Mr. Farrakhan's family.
So how did it come out in the wash?
To me personally, I was in Chicago. I lived in Chicago at the time. This was 1997, I want to say. Again, 97, 98. Mr. Farrakhan held a Islamic convention in Chicago. The family I was living with at the time was really deep in the arts and culture. So she put on a play that Minister Farrakhan attended, and I was in the play. And I'll never forget, I was on stage actually waiting my cue or whatever to go on, and Mr. Farrakhan walked into the MUI gymnasium and took a seat. My sister was seated on the other end of the gymnasium, and I'll never forget, Mr. Farrakhan walked in and waved at my sister. And if the way he waved at her, something in my head, I believe it was Allah. You know what I mean? This, as far as I'm concerned, told me in my head, your sister is one of Mr. Farrakhan's women. And it was just like that. It was just something that clicked in my head after I saw that interaction. And there was a brother I was living with, may Allah be pleased with him. His name was Jackie. Jackie was a soldier, FOI in Chicago. And I went to Jackie because he was one of the brothers who was in charge of the boarding house that I was living in at the time. And I asked Jackie, I said, Jackie, I got a feeling that Mr. Farrakhan is with my sister. And he confirmed it to me, Brother Jackie. Jackie was pretty much a deep, security presence in Chicago. He was really in the mix of everything going on in Chicago at the time.
Right.
That's how I became aware of the situation, me personally, as far as my story is concerned.
Did you ever, and what's your sister's name?
She was Karen. May Allah be pleased with her. She's no longer here either.
Yeah, she's no longer here. Did you ever have any conversations with your sister Karen?
I've had several conversations with her. over the years. Nothing in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Though I did ask her a question before she passed in relation to something with me personally.
Mm-hmm.
But and that was, I'll just say that my family or my father's family at this point, I'll just say, was never really that receptive towards me. Understandably so, even though I tried and did many attempts to have that brother-sister relationship and to create some type of family structure as a brother with them. All of them, most of them were not open to it, you know, and those who was open to it was very inconsistent.
Right.
So I had a conversation with Karen one day, I attempted to, and asked her, how is it that her herself being one of the wives or one of many women that Mr. Farrakhan was with, committed to, had children with, how come she was so resistant towards me, considering her situation? You know, never got a real response on that. But that's one conversation I attempted to have with her. But you know, she was not always like, there were times that she was very much cordial and friendly, and we had respectable conversation. That's all of them, not just her. That's all of them. It wasn't always hostile, but it was just inconsistent. You know, it was very inconsistent, and they made no attempt. Or excuse me, I'll put it like this: they made no reservation with letting me know directly or indirectly that you ain't one of us. You know what I mean? And that's where we are with it now, to the point there is no relationship at this point.
How many kids did your sister Karen have with Farrakhan?
2, a daughter, a son, and a daughter.
And how old are they? And what's their names?
I can't give you the exact ages. I know Yasin is one. He's in his 30s, and Jalila is the other, is a daughter. She's in her 20s.
Okay, and
I would say maybe late 20s. I'm not for certain.
Was your sister of age when Farrakhan?
Oh, absolutely.
She was. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what did your father think of this, Captain Sam? I call him Captain Sam. I'm sorry.
Abdul Rahman.
Abdul Rahman. Thank you, sir.
I'll say late in life. All right, and we're talking about within the last couple of years of my father's life.
Right.
I recall my father. He never. My father. Let's put it like this. My father had even when Mr. Farrakhan wasn't leading Nation of Islam. When Mr. Farrakhan had his dark periods, all of them had it. Right. When the Nation of Islam fell in 1975, all of Elijah Muhammad's ministers went to the left. They went back.
What does that mean to the left? What does that mean?
Drugs, drinking, women, clubbing, you name it. They went back to the world, so to speak. That the Christians call it the world. You know, my father called it the fast lane. All of them, including Mr. Farrakhan, went to the left. They went to the world. So my father, even in that state, never had any disrespect for Mr. Farrakhan. Pretty much all the ministers that Elijah Muhammad had hated Mr. Farrakhan. They didn't care for him at all, and they didn't want to help him rebuild the work. My father was one of the only few that actually respected Mr. Farrakhan and didn't have a problem with him rebuilding that work. My father actually defended. I'm going somewhere with this. But my father actually defended Mr. Farrakhan, even when he wasn't serving Mr. Farrakhan. My father defended Mr. Farrakhan against all of his enemies when they were calling Mr. Farrakhan a hypocrite for trying to rebuild his nation, Elijah Muhammad's work. So with that said, my father always had the ultimate respect and love, admiration, and I would say even served Mr. Farrakhan faithfully to the day he died. But so I said that to say this, that one private conversation I had with him, he conveyed to me that he didn't have a problem with it, but he didn't understand it. He didn't understand it. And he left it at that, brother. That's where he left it with me. He said,
say it again.
He said he didn't have a problem with it, but he didn't understand it. And I think a lot of that was because because my sister Karen was so hostile with my father in his domestic life. She never was receptive to my father's domestic life when it came to my mother, obviously. Karen and one of my other sisters, all of my father's blood sisters, all of his younger sisters. I believe my grandmother, my father's mother, Minister Farrakhan, all of them was in my father's ear, trying to get him to give me up to the state, give me up for adoption, forget about me. And he didn't understand how they could take a position like that, considering the lifestyle that Karen had with the minister. That's the only hiccup I think that he had with that. But outside of that, he loved Mr. Farrakhan, and he didn't oppose that. He didn't oppose it.
You don't think that's hurtful to that he chose the minister over protecting his daughter, your sister?
Was it hurtful to him?
Yeah, like the woman.
Well, you got to consider this, Brother Fred.
Uh-huh.
These are religious people we're talking. These are and religion drives a lot of people to a lot of shit. Excuse my lingo. But religion is very powerful, man. And my father was deeply, deeply, deeply rooted in his religion. Even when I saw my father do wrong, even when my father was 1 foot in the street and 1 foot in the mosque, you feel what I'm saying? He was always dedicated to his religion. So his religion told him that the messenger of Allah could have more than one wife, could engage in that, and that's what he leaned on. Now, my personal beliefs don't necessarily line up with that. So that's me on my end. But my father never begrudged Mr. Farrakhan that in my face. The only thing that I saw that my father was in conflict with was why would my sister because my sister gave my father hell with his domestic life. That is what it was. Even when my father married 2 or 3 other times under Mr. Farrakhan's leadership, my sisters were never in agreement with it. And this was years after he had been separated from their mother. That's just how they were. And he didn't like that. He had a problem with that. Is that you got an opinion and your strong arm in my domestic life, considering how you live and how you moving with it.
Right.
That's the only conflict I ever saw my father had with it. But he never had an issue with Mr. Farrakhan with that, though some people think he may have had with that. But understand something. He comes from a different time. Men did not get involved with how the men got down with it.
Even when it's your blood daughter.
That man was sitting in the seat of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in my dad's mind. And that's the seat he reverenced. He respected the office. He respected the seat.
How did that?
I get it, brother. I get where you come from.
Yeah.
And if it was me, I probably would have a reservation with it. But I'm looking at it from his perspective, is that Mr. Farrakhan was sitting in the seat of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He rebuilt the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he never begrudged him of that.
How did it impact your family with Farrakhan having 2 kids with your sister, half sister?
Like I said, they kept me at distance when it came to a lot of that because they never saw me as a full-blooded brother. And due to that, I didn't get too much personal interaction with that no more. Like I said, I didn't even know that was the case until I was a good 16, 17 years old. Right. I didn't even know that was the case with the minister and my sister. It was something that just wasn't talked about. But all of my family, all of my father's family, all of his children, they love Mr. Farrakhan. I think they look at it as a badge of honor, personally speaking. And to me, it was a conflict. I didn't understand it because I didn't understand how can you embrace that and see no issue with that lifestyle, but yet hate my mother so much and have so much animosity against my father. Because the reality of it is, they never forgave my father for what he did, how he got down with my mother. And as a result, a lot of that came down on me. So that's that. They respect the minister to this day. They consider him family. They call him brother-in-law, and that is what it is. So,
have you ever been in the room with everyone, albeit Farrakhan, the kids, the mom, at some point during Karen's life?
Yeah.
With Farrakhan in the room?
Yeah. Maybe once or twice. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
It was different.
And where was it? Where was it? So I can have some.
I want to say it was here in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
I want to say in Atlanta maybe a couple times, and maybe in Chicago once, if I can recall, if I'm recalling correctly. But the thing is, though, he doesn't interact with them with the same energy he does his known children or his original family, or however you want to refer to it, the first family. It's always it's a cloud of secrecy around it, and it's not really until recently. It wasn't really until recently he's even open up about it. He's been open about it. Like I want to say within the last few years, he's open about it. At my father's memorial service a couple of years ago, he came down and he addressed, Karen as his wife and the children. He did acknowledge it there.
At the funeral?
No, the memorial. It wasn't the funeral. It was the memorial. It was a funeral that happened in April, but he came back to Atlanta, I want to say in August of that same year, and had a big memorial for my father at the mosque. And he mentioned it there. I mean, they don't, it's one of the things, it's not something they hide, but it's not something they publicize either.
Oh my!
It's bizarre, you know what I mean? But it is what it is.
So, was he a father to the kids?
I can't answer that. That's not something for me to answer because I haven't been in proximity to that. But I mean, I've seen they love their father. From what I see of them, the little bit I've been exposed to, they love him. They acknowledge him. Yeah, I mean, but it's just not open.
But one day, on the 17th of September, in a little village in Mexico called Tepoztlán, the wheel came down. I climbed a mountain that I usually go when I'm in Mexico. And Jibril was next to me. And from the wheel they said, not him, just you. So Jibril had to stand back. I moved forward. And a light came out of that wheel. It was so strong. And they said, just relax. And the wheel took me up from the top of that mountain. The wheel was off to the side and took me into the wheel. I was sitting next to the pilot, but I couldn't see him. And he took off at a terrific speed, and I knew where he was going, and I was terrified. Because to see an object in the sky that's a half a mile down, a half a mile up, a half a mile wide, it was like being invited to a city that's 40 miles up above the earth. And there I was on that wheel. I was frightened because God, I had taken on a wife or two. Did you hear me? What? Yeah. He said, do like you see me do. Go like you see me go. Wait a minute. But when I got up on the wheel, I'm nervous. And so the first thing I asked, I heard Elijah Muhammad's voice. I never saw him. I asked him about my taking wives. And he acted like he was disgusted with me. I didn't bring you up here to discuss that with you. It's only a sign of what you will have on the other side of your next visit to me. That don't make me happy. Because women in your life is a trial. Women in your life becomes your biggest test. The Holy Quran says one is better for you if you but knew, but you get more than one and you'll find out why one is better. No. There's a time and a place for everything. But women are not to be played with. So those of you who study Guide 18, I have a warning in there in red. Don't do that. That's not for you. Well, is it for you? Yes. See, how can you tell that Allah is not displeased with me? Because He never left me. I'm successful in whatever I do. He hasn't turned away from me. But I thank Allah for those sisters, because each of them has been my teacher. How are you going to deal with women if you don't know them? 75% of the messenger's work is with women. He didn't call you out to put you over his class. Ask about me in my class. Ask about me in my class. Sister Naima, the head of the class, and all the rest of them can tell you, I have never, ever been fresh or smart or scheming with any of the sisters in the class except those that were for me. And if you weren't one of them, it ain't your fault. But I don't need no more. For sure. I don't like that life. I don't like to hurt women. You can't be married to more than one and find peace. I tried everything I could. It ain't working. So if you're a wise man, you leave stuff alone that you can't handle. And I can't say I'm the best handler of that kind of life. But my children, they stand up for me. They my children know I'm not a dirty man. And those of my children that were produced from those women, they can tell you what I've done to make them all a family. The only one. And that's why you all should pay honor and respect to Mother Khadijah. That's why every time you see her, thank her for being, to me, a believing friend. Don't think she likes that. What woman would? Well, there's a lot of women that agree with that. Yeah, you the second one. Not, you ain't the first. But the first don't agree with that a damn bit. But if you want to get in the family, you say, oh, that's nice. It's really nice. Until the third one comes. Sisters, don't let men play you while I'm gone. Don't let none of these men tell you they're justified in having more than one wife.